welcome back to Behind Enemy Lines with Mike and Terry on our Tuesday night show. So we gotta have another. I say this every time, right? All our guests are outstanding and awesome, but this guy has a special spot in my heart for him, not just because he's Italian, but yes, because he's Italian. Yes, because he's Chicago, was Chicago based, and yes, because he fought for against DEI and he compromised his job. Unfortunately, that sucks. But he's a man that's willing to do the right thing, and it cost him his job, just like it happened to me. So there's not many men that are willing to do that. I guess it's mostly Italian guys that have the balls and the courage to do that. And
Somebody's got to do it, right?
yeah, and even though Rick Adante, who's a professor, a PhD, I got an Italian buddy, a PhD. It's holy shit. I don't know that many Italian PhDs. And so he was a PhD at Florida Tech who exposed the school with all their DEI bullshit, right? And they were trying to continue to get the money from DeSantis, the state of Florida, the federal government, while they were trying to hide the fact that they wanted to still do their little DEI stuff on the side. He had the courage to work with James O'Keefe. He went, I guess, undercover, and was able to get some video and audio of this president, this scumbag. His name is John Nicolo, and we'll show him later, Mike. I don't want to throw him on your lap now. We have plenty of times to show that pricks.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So Rick had the courage to do that, and he was doing the right thing for his children, for the college students, for the country, and he lost his job. And so he's going to tell a story. This is like an ongoing news story, right? There's things that he's going to talk about that are happening right now with the state of Florida, and DeSantis finally getting off his coochie and helping him out. So I'm real excited to have him here, even though he's from the Northwest side. He's a PhD, but I think I probably went to college as much as Rick. So I went to on the Southwest side. I went to Morning Valley Junior College for 12 years, and then I got my I got my bachelor's at 37 at Elmhurst. I'm a slow learner, so I bet you I got the same amount of years of college as him, except I don't
Just
have
not the same number of credits.
Yes. Oh no, I actually started college. I started Elmhurst with 130 college credits from Morning Valley. I mean, they all so I'm an ADD slow learner. So anyway, let's Mike, say whatever
Yeah, we
you
got a
want to
quick.
say. But let's
Yeah,
do
we got
that
a quick.
then
We'll run
pull-
this clip real quick, and then we'll jump into it. Here we go.
We have a course, and it was called DEI 101, right? We got a course. All right.
Hey, hello, Paisan. Hello, how you doing? How you doing? Right. Thank you, Rick. So welcome to the show. We're really excited to have you here. Sacrificing your job, which is like huge, right? Not many people are willing to sacrifice or compromise their job to do the right thing. It's very rare in America now. So we respect you for that. So why don't you do like a better introduction of who you are and things that you've done, your PhD, your education, and then we'll jump into why you're here, but also talk about a little bit about that clip because we forgot to introduce the clip. All right, so we'll hand it off to you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on. So, a little bit of background about me. I was a tenured professor in psychology and biomedical engineering at Florida Tech up until just a few weeks ago when I was fired from a tenured position. Now, that's not supposed to be an easy thing to do. Tenure is a very secured, locked in. You're like a made man in the mafia.
Yeah.
And there really isn't a way out of that except for death in the mafia or tenure usually. And so the reason I say that is because it provides a bit of a entry point to your question about a background. So my background was I grew up in Chicago. I left when I was 16, started over again in New Jersey, did 5 years actually as an undergraduate at the College of New Jersey studying psychology and as a 4-year NCAA wrestler. Kind of snuck into some stuff at Princeton for 4 or 5 years while I was there, learned a lot about neuroscience, and then went and got a PhD in neuroscience at the UC Davis, which is in Northern California, outside of Sacramento. Met my absolute smoke show of a wife, fell in love, learned how to fly some planes, dive, do a lot of fun stuff, and then did a postdoc for 3 years at UT Southwestern Medical School in Dallas. Was a faculty member at University of Texas Dallas, then on the tenure track at Cal State San Bernardino, before coming here to Florida Tech. So that is a long journey of 25 years in the industry of academia. I've published all sorts of discoveries about human memory and brain states, amnesia, clinical patients. Most recently, just about 9 or 10 months ago, published a discovery of a new kind of human memory. That took about 8 or 9 years to do. So all that builds into tenure. Multiple national award winner for scientific service to the country from the National Institute of Health, a diversity fellow of the American Psychological Association, and really quite the journey. A lot of ups and downs. All that stuff sounds great. I always tell students that, that sounds wonderful, but really, that for every ounce of that success, there was a pound of failure along the way. So a very nitty gritty build up by the bootstraps journey to that junction point that is supposed to be locked in with tenure. So it's a big deal when you lose that. And you definitely shouldn't lose it for being a whistleblower. That's legally protected activity when you catch the president of your university conspiring with a cabal of other faculty members to defraud the citizens of the state of Florida and defraud the citizens of the United States of America who pay tax dollars to give them grant money. The grant money came with stipulations, and our president came to us and told us a story of how he got a $7 million grant from the office of Governor Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida, in the governor's office. And he said that the governor basically shook him down and said, "Why are you so woke?" And showed him some examples about of prohibited discriminatory things that DEI does, that Florida Tech was doing on its website, and said, "You're not supposed to be doing these things." And he said that he almost spoke up and fought back against him. But his lobbyist, who it turns out is the former Speaker of the House in Florida, Chris, I think his name is Syphilis or something. Anyways,
Syphilis.
Yeah, something like that. But he said in the video, he calmed him down and said, no, create a sin of omission. Don't say anything. Take your licking from DeSantis. Lie to him effectively.
Wow.
Yeah.
Then go home. And he says, I started driving home and I thought back to myself, why don't we fight back? So Ron, if you're listening, sir, as a constituent, it was an honor to be able to catch a university president saying he's going to fight back against you, against what you told him as stipulations to receive $7 million.
We saw, well, that's worked for Disney, so that's really not the right fight to pick. Hey, is there any way you can turn your mic up a little bit? I don't know what happened in the last, since we started, but your volume went down, and it's kind of the point where it's probably hard for the audience to hear.
Is that better?
A little bit. I don't think it was the headphones. It was something with the mic because it was fine earlier. So I'm not sure what happened.
I was able to hear him okay. It was a little bit low, but it was.
Is that better? You got me?
Yeah, we can hear
actually.
you.
Yes, it is. All right.
All right. Sorry about that. So where did I fade out? Where can I pick back up again?
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it. Let that thing hang. You're fine. Don't worry about it.
Well, it was, like push DeSantis, letting him know, and we might have somebody that might be able to send this to him so he'll see it.
We are. I'm going to send it to Richard Porter. You hear me, Richard Porter?
Well, as I was saying, from one Italian to another, it was an honor to catch somebody lying to Ron DeSantis' office. And he said, I got shook down and I went home, and instead of confronting him to his face, which, a real man would have done.
Yes.
I took my licking, nodded, smiled, said, yes, sir, took the money. I went home and I figured out a way to fight against him, is what this president came back effectively and told us. It's on videotape. James O'Keefe broke that story in early April of 2025 this year, about 4 months ago. And there's a lot more said in that meeting. And that's kind of what the opening clip was that you got caught there, because what was
hey, Rick,
captured.
You could drop that. You're fine. We could hear you with that. Don't worry. Don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
And so the clip that you showed had
Hmm.
never been really shown before. I had posted it on Twitter today, but really, nobody really follows me on Twitter, so uh, nobody saw it, and
So
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 it
wait,
really
wait,
kind of
wait, say, nobody saw that clip today where the guy was laughing at the taxpayers of Florida and the United States of America that basically in the summarization is like, yeah, we're gonna pretend that we're not pushing DEI, but we're really pushing DEI. Ha ha ha.
well,
Screw them and give me the money. Was that kind of a good summary?
it was that, but even more. So it wasn't just the president laughing. What you showed was a roaring laughter from a room of college faculty members who was talking to the president, and he was telling them, why don't we fight back, but we just can't get caught. We're just going to change the words. We're not going to change our deeds, the actions that DeSantis was looking for, but we're just going to change our words. And he said, so if we have a class like DEI 101, and they looked around because we actually have that class. And he says,
Oh
wait a
my
minute,
gosh.
we have a class named DEI 101. And it was actually like DEI 6301 or something. But like, yeah.
Yeah,
And
close enough.
so he basically called it out as if he didn't, as a president, he didn't even know the class was taught in his own university. And he's sitting there, he's telling us a hypothetical, like, well, if we have DEI 101, and they're like, yeah, we do, bro. And they all thought it was absolutely hilarious that they're going to lie to the governor's face, lie to the Trump administration, and lie to the tax-paying citizens and tell them when they certify their grants and everything else, we are complying, we're not doing this, don't worry, we are going to follow the law. They are lying, and they are laughing about it behind your back. Now, what I thought was very interesting and useful about that is you don't get to see that. I'm a faculty member there. This was an open meeting without any expectation of privacy. They record these meetings themselves, and everybody
Yeah,
has their cell phones out, cameras out, and they send meeting minutes out um, of the record of who said what all the time to people who weren't even in the meeting. And so
sure.
it was galling to see the audacity of these people who feel like your tax money is theirs,
There's
and they
Yeah.
can do what they want to with what you earn
and
against your
our
record.
children are theirs too, right? I mean,
Well,
our
yeah,
children are theirs.
they're students, and
Yeah.
so they're using your money to indoctrinate your kids, and frankly, indoctrinating them with incorrect and really, frankly,
Yeah,
audacious
nonsense.
discriminatory things. And
Yeah.
so that's what they're laughing about. They're laughing in that clip because they know they're getting away with it. It's like the old clip of the Reagan administration laughing, or the old clip. You can imagine a bunch of mafiosos laughing that they're getting away with the crime because they are. They're getting away with the crime, and that's what that clip was. And you don't get to see that. That's happening
So,
not just here. That's happening at every university,
Everywhere.
every corporate boardroom, all these different places in America. They say it's not happening. They say they're going to comply. They do the classic mafia shell game. But that's what's special about this O'Keefe story, and that's what's special about these clips is that not only do you almost never get to catch them, but when they are caught, and they are occasionally, it's usually a mid-level staffer. It's not somebody
sure.
who's the president
President level.
speaking on behalf of the actual institutional policy, and so they usually throw the staffer under the bus, say that's not our policy, that's not our institution, don't worry, and they'll go back and they'll laugh about it behind your back again. This
Yeah.
time, no, not on my watch.
Yeah. So you
So,
know what, Rick? Sorry, Mike. Did you want to jump in there?
well, I was going to ask if there. I know, based on the opening, that you've unfortunately been terminated for coming forward and blowing the whistle. Now, have they suffered any other repercussions there, or has DeSantis snapped back that grant money, or done anything else yet about this?
Not to my knowledge, they haven't suffered any repercussions. In fact, what happened is I'm the only one who got fired. So much akin to the gentleman who was the only person in the military who spoke up and got fired for speaking up after the fall of Kabul not too many years ago. Only
Yeah.
one person got fired, and that was the person who told the truth. I was the only person who got fired from this, and I was the one who told the truth. And even more so, and this is where it's really pretty amazing and frankly liberating because they offered me $100,000 to shut up. They offered me $100,000 buyout, just about $96,000. But the catch on this is I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. I had to
Of course.
sign a non-disparagement clause, and I had to promise to never ever sue them. So what they were trying to do is buy my silence, buy my integrity, and buy the truth. And unfortunately for them, the truth isn't for sale. My integrity is not for sale, and
Yeah.
it never will be. So they can take their money and they can shove it right back where it came from, as far as
Good.
I'm concerned. And so I walked away with nothing, and but I walked away with everything in respect to my dignity, my integrity, and the honor of the truth. And so they fired me for that. And then what ended up happening is that they've, to my knowledge, not suffered really any negative consequences at this point in the game. I filed several complaints at the Department of Justice, Office of Civil Rights. They're looking into it. Federal Department of Education. They control $69 million in student federal loans that the president said in the meeting he was concerned about losing. So we better not get caught doing DEI. So just stay under the radar is what they said. He said, I know that we could lose that money. He knew that we could lose state funding called ease grants for students from the DeSantis administration. And so it was a big meeting of a cabal, of a conspiracy of these professors to defraud, together with the president's guidance and coordination, against you, the taxpayer. And they're under investigation, but to my knowledge, it's been no consequences yet. And I would add one last thing, that one thing that they did do afterwards is they lied through their teeth. They put out a statement,
Of course,
as tends to happen, right? He denies the entire thing, in the sense that he said, yes, this happened. It's obviously on tape, but it's like this was taken out of context. It was deceptive. He lied and said it was a private meeting and that it was an illegal recording, which it wasn't. So he automatically there tars and feathers and tarnishes and disparages a whistleblower who works for him as his employee. That is generally whistleblower retaliation in the workplace. And then the board of directors or the board of trustees comes out and fully backs him, which is really funny because they weren't present. The board of trustees chair, Kristen Dreggers, is a executive for Lockheed Martin down here and on the engineering side. She issues a statement about the event, which I found striking because I'm like, lady, you weren't there. I was there. I know what happened. How do you even know what's true? So either he lied to her and now she's on the hook, or he told her the truth and she just decided to lie and cover either. Now, here's what's funny. So their comms people decided that they must be dumb enough to tell a bunch of lies. Usually what you ought to do is come clean, tell the truth, and you probably escape with, a glancing blow.
Sure.
Instead, they wait a few months and they try to buy me off. And that's an insult to me. It's an offensive insult to me, my family, everybody. And so then they fire me. And you know what I was doing up until that point, Tara? I was being quiet. I was being discreet. I was being professional. And you never heard from me. You haven't heard of me until now. And so all they did in trying to buy silence is they woke a sleeping giant. And now we're loud. Now we come forward. I've told the truth. I've got a Substack that tells all the evidence and it shows all the proof. We did a great big long podcast with James O'Keefe. We got the show going with you guys here. We're ramping up with the truth and we're trying to share it as far and wide as possible because you guys, the taxpayers, deserve to know not just what's being done with your tax money, but you guys deserve to know who's lying about it. And, this is an example of what's happening, of instances that you almost never get to catch. And we caught it here. So let's not let it get away and let's get some justice.
That's huge. I forgot to send Mike. I sent it while you were talking. The letter you got from DeSantis.
Already downloaded it.
Can you show that and let Rick talk to that? And hey, Rick.
Oh yeah.
Why don't you check your cell phone, the text message I just sent you, but don't say the name of the person. I just gave it to you.
Okay.
And you could contact that person. I think you know who that is, right?
Okay. I'll take a look right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna send this over to someone else.
You know who that person is?
I do now. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Okay. They could help you with that.
All right. Can I tell you what's happening here?
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah.
All right. So, this is a letter I received just a few days ago, August 14th. So about 4 days ago, maybe, from the office of the governor of the state of Florida, Mr. Ron DeSantis. And what it is it's a response to a complaint I filed about this matter, raising their awareness. And they said effectively, pointing out that it's as a private institution that they have a limited control over the personnel and respect it. And then they say, hey, here's a link to the board of trustees. Why don't you guys contact them? Here they are. So there they are. If anybody wants to contact them, the person who put their statement out was the chair of the board of trustees, Kristen Dreggers. I'll come back to her in a second. She's special. But Then it goes on to say, but don't worry, we are referring your complaint to the Inspector General for the Department of Education for review and action um, deemed appropriate. And that was CC'd to the Inspector General from the Office of the Chief Inspector General. And so it looks like they're actively working on it. I'm grateful and appreciative for that because, as you know, all of us little guys, we're here supporting, the people out front, the governors, the representatives, the presidents, senators. They need us, but we need them. We fight for them in the ballots, and we fight for them in the public, and they do their job fighting for us too. So I'm appreciative of that. It looks like things are moving in the right direction, but definitely want to keep up the awareness of that and keep that moving in the right direction.
So, Rick, has anybody? So talk up a little bit because it's like don't hold your mic up. Just talk up. Don't worry about it. Don't have to work. Has anybody from the Trump administration or reached out to you? Or I know the story's kind of new, but has anybody or any politicians or congressmen, Matt Gates, anybody reached out to you?
No, not yet. And as you might imagine, right? Like as a citizen and a person, there's times when that can be frustrating. But at the
Mhm.
same time, I think that I certainly understand the nature that they're doing pretty historic things right now too, and they've got their hands full. They're fighting some big battles. They're winning them, but they're also doing it completely short staffed because they've got to gut the orcs out of
Yes.
the organizations and all those orcs that have burrowed in and worked to create
Yeah.
interference and resistance to the will of the people.
I mean, they just had to fire a guy that attacked ICE officers with a sandwich up in D.C., and that guy worked in the DOJ, was on active cases. So, yeah, they got to clean out all the weasels before they can move all this forward. But I bet Harmeet Dillon would love to hear about this.
I bet
I
she
hope
would, buddy.
I'd love to hear from her too. I'm a big fan. It's funny. So when I got my PhD in UC Davis, I would do a lot of spearfishing and abalone diving right north of where she hails from in Bodega and San Francisco Bay. So we've actually traveled, probably eaten a lot of the same restaurants up there in an absolutely beautiful country. If you ever get to rural Northwest California,
Yeah, California, away from the communist infestation.
Yeah. We used to do some. I used to train some UFC guys up there with Team Alpha Male, and yeah, it's a small world. So hopefully one day I'll have a chance to connect with her.
Oh,
Well, I think we can make that happen.
You do UFC fighting at all?
I dabbled a little bit, so I'm a little bit old and out of the game. But one of the ways I paid through for college was as a bouncer and a fighter in a nightclub. So I kind of got my chops street fighting in that respect. Was a wrestler for a while, and then I decided to get serious about school when I had the opportunity to, work as a diversity fellow, as it is from the American Psychological Association. So I was getting my pilot's license, and I knew that I would be distracted, so I kind of took a step back from the mat. But it was like the day or two after I got my pilot's license, I walked into Uriah Faber's gym up in Sacramento. Started training with him. We had some really good goes. He needed a partner, so I was about his size, and we made friends. And after that, he found out as a pilot. They thought that meant a Southwest Airlines pilot.
Yeah.
And so I probably had 60 hours, just fresh private pilot. But they said you can fly, and I said, yeah, of course.
Yeah, during good weather in the daytime.
So I started flying him around. And so if you go to like YouTube, there's videos that they made of like me and Uriah flying around. And I had no idea that he was like taking pictures and video, and they like dubbed it to Top Gun. It was really cheesy and funny. And yeah, it's out there. And then so that was back in 2011. So like the guys we were training with was like TJ Dillashaw, Chad Mendez, Josh Emmett, Danny Castillo, Joseph Benavidez, like Murderers Row basically. Before TJ was even like a world champ or anything, but they were all world champs in the gym. Like you just hadn't known about it yet. So it was an honor to get to train with them and fly with them and fight with them, and learned a lot about, kind of how to be a champion, and took that forward. Funny story. So when I got done flying Uriah from a flight up there, he said, "This is really cool." And I said, "Well, I can only fly in like certain good weather, and we got to rent a plane and this and that." He said, "Well, how about I buy a plane and pay for your training?" And I was like, "Wow, that sounds really good." But I turned him down, and he was training for the World Championship fight with Dominic Cruz at MGM Grand in 4th of July in Vegas. And it would have been an awesome lifestyle. Like it was a pretty cool opportunity, but it was really inspiring to see them train to be world champions. And I knew that I didn't have that in me on the fight side because I was decent, but I wasn't trained to be a world champion. But I knew I wanted to do that in science, and in my career. And my dream was to be an astronaut and a scientist. And so I was really close to being finishing my PhD at that point. So I turned Uriah down because I said, I respect that and I appreciate that, thank you, but like, you know, we're all trying to win our own championships here, and I have to stay focused on that. So I politely declined. He went off and fought for the world championship. I got my PhD, and then I got called to interview with NASA for the astronaut job a couple years after that. So I'd like to think that it was the right decision. Ultimately, I didn't get that job, but I got to do some pretty cool missions.
So my current wife, before we got married, she was dating some NASA guy, and look, at she got me. So tell us about the 10. You know, because you talked about it in the beginning, right? I want people to
Yeah.
understand when you become tenured, right?
Yeah.
And then it's supposed to be like my understanding. I don't know too much about it, but I know exactly what you said. It's supposed to be hard to get rid of a tenured professor. We've got these leftist scumbags all over the country brainwashing with crazy radical leftist ideology, and we can't get rid of them. So tell us how you become tenured and how the hell they got rid of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I'm
you
going to
know,
guess you didn't lose your tenure the way the professors, and I can't remember if it was Portland or Seattle, that firebombed the police station. You probably didn't throw a Molotov at a police station to lose your tenure, huh?
No, I didn't. And you know, like the thing about it is, you haven't heard about me in the news for any of these kind of things for 25 years. I've worked in academia because I really haven't been political at the job. I don't like that. I
Yeah.
don't like when professors are very political at the job.
Mhm.
And I
Makes
tried to.
sense.
I never hid who I was, but I also, you know, like it made no sense. I didn't think it was fair to students and colleagues because I really don't appreciate when they do that either. And so, getting tenure is difficult for anybody. It was definitely difficult for me. But when I showed up at Florida Tech, was supposed to take 10 years, or excuse me, 6 years to get tenure, and I got it in 2. And I got
Wow.
special presidential permission to, because I was doing that successful at that point. And I think it probably bothered some people who weren't being as successful for obvious reasons. And that was a different president at the time, a better one, and I'm grateful for that. That was very kind, and I was appreciative. But you know, think about the journey that I just kind of related, which is like I gave up flying for the UFC World Championship with Uriah Faber. You know, just for instance, like we chose a pathway and we pursued it, and I'm glad that we did. But like there was a lot that loaded into that journey. And when you're tenured, like you were saying, Terry, it's supposed to be hard to lose. And it's actually, as you brought up very well, it's a delicate issue because there's a lot of people with tenure who thoroughly abused it and debased it. And there's so many people that should be fired from tenure because they're not productive anymore. They're not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, and they're abusing the public or the private trust in that regard too. Now, I was actually overproducing based on the criteria that we have at our university. I think that also probably rubbed some people the wrong way. I was getting NIH grants pretty regularly. That actually,
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Like
Yeah.
you know, like the criteria, right? We don't understand. Like I'm sure it's probably detailed. But to your point, I was going to ask you about getting grants and things that you bring to the school, and writing white papers and all this stuff is part of probably the tenure process. You probably overachieved in that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah. And so like I was there was no performance issue for me in that respect. Like
Sure.
I was crushing it. I got my students into NASA missions. The university was putting press releases out. Actually, you want to hear this? The university put a press release out in March before this meeting happened, celebrating that some of the science we were doing at Florida Tech was going to space on the International Space Station.
Cool.
And I was mentioned in the article because I had been a part of that project. I was on the selection committee with the provost that picked which of our projects were going to go to space on the International Space Station. And they put me out there. I have it. Like if you go to the Wayback Machine, you can see it.
Yeah.
But if you go to the same story from Florida Tech now, they stealth edited me out like Stalin.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I just deleted you from history.
Yeah.
You know what? what's especially, disgusting about this too is, you exemplify the kind of person that they want there, that's really expanding the horizons for yourself and the students. But because you don't align with this political philosophy, or even whether you do or you don't, that's not the issue. They're violating the law. You respect the law, well, it's also, it looks bad on your school, for the school too, if they lied to get the grant money and then get caught later. But you did the right thing. You're an overachiever, and they get rid of you to protect their own butts rather than doing the right thing, firing the president, correcting the policy, and being compliant with state and federal law. Instead, they push you out the door because it's better to cover up their little fiefdom down there.
Well, you had said it exactly right, Mike, but not only were they bad, they were stupid. So
Yeah.
not only do that stuff, but they went after a whistleblower, which is stupid to begin with, but then they offered him a buyout that, like, no, how about I was already quiet? You didn't have to buy my silence. I was already being pretty quiet because I was just trying to go and live my life and do a good job at work, which I was doing. I just want to be left alone and produce and do a good job and help our students. I sent my students on a NASA mission. Like, it was great. So all you did was stupidly do the Barbara Streisand effect and draw so much attention to what was not being paid attention to at all. And that was a problem in its own right, because our state representatives were not paying attention. They weren't. Now, guess what? I just met with Chandler Langevin on the City Hall at Palm Bay. Great new guy up and coming in the conservative community out here. He's writing letters based upon the mayor's office out here. We are moving things afoot because it's not about me. It's about the students who are being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
It's about the employees who get retaliated on. How many other people have been bought out with the truth? We'll never know because they were bought out from the truth. So they could be doing this all the time. But it's about the citizens who voted people in to say these are not the appropriate policies. And it was Harmeet Dalon at the Office of Civil Rights who literally has put out, together with the White House, that this is illegal discriminatory activity. Right. And so I'm a diversity scholar myself. Like, I'm Italian American, but I also have family on the Dawes rolls of Native Americans, and like discrimination is discrimination.
Hey, I'm an ex-offender. I'm an ex-offender.
So to your point, like, there's professors in Portland and all these places who are doing atrocities and don't lose anything, but not even a slap in the wrist. And here I am, I did the right thing, and we don't have a lot of people doing that, and so. Tenure is used to protect the weakest and the least courageous, because the way you get tenure is not speaking up and becoming,
supposed to protect you,
lack of a better term, a cucked out bird who learns not to be courageous, who learns to speak the party line. And so by the time you're given the power and the position to where you're supposed to be able to speak freely, you've no longer exercised that organ to know how to speak freely, to how to have courage. And so the industry has really suffered for that. There are, and I want to be really clear, there's extraordinary exceptions to all of this stuff. I know some I know great professors of all political stripes who've saved me at times and helped me. This is not, I don't look at that in a political lens. But there are good people with courage. It's just the problem is any industry, they're few and far between. And I'm grateful for the ones that we have in every single industry, academia included. However, it's a filthy, rotten, rat-infested cesspool, and I'm not the first one to say that. You can read that in their own publications. They all say it until the lights shine down on them and they take away their indirect funds. And they're like, no, we need our indirect funds. I promise you, before the Trump administration took away the indirect funds, every single professor and scientist was really mad that the university took all these indirect funds. So, they need to have some integrity in holding a consistent position, and oftentimes they don't. And tenure has been abused extraordinarily. And now you have somebody like me who did it the right way, who got it, and was actually educating students. I wasn't using grade inflation to give the class away. I wasn't teaching garbage DEI or all this woke ideology. I was actually
or giving people bonus points to go to Kamala Harris rallies.
Man, nah, not a chance, man.
So what is it like when you lost your tenure, right, or your job? Like, is there a committee? How does tell people how that works, right? Because nobody knows how that works. And I mean, the first time I heard about tenure being axed.
So this is kind of new to me because I'd never lost tenure before. But you know, so it turns out, as you might imagine, right? And as there ought to be, there's usually at other universities a process that you're supposed to go through. Think of it as due process, so to speak, right? So they didn't do that. I didn't even know I was being fired. They said my attorney contacted them back and said, "Well, what are you firing him for? He has tenure." And they said, "Well, we convened a disciplinary panel that found that he was insubordinate about something we're not going to tell you, and they just determined that, and so now he can be fired." And I said, "Hold on, like you had a secret meeting in a star chamber about me. You didn't tell me about it. You didn't. I still don't know what the claims were, what the charges were. We don't know what the evidence were to support those claims and charges. I couldn't confront any witness or evidence and assess its reliability or credibility. Complete, absolute communist star chamber." And that's how easy they broke it, which makes Florida Tech such a flaming joke.
Yeah.
Because if they could do it to me, they could do it to anyone.
They having tenure.
Well, it means it doesn't really exist. It means that's what I'm saying. Like it's a joke that they tell people they have it, and so shame on them, shame on them. And they think they want to get me. All they did was awaken me and make me not want to be quiet because I was in the running for the astronaut position. I was a finalist in 2016, 17. I was going to be back in the game again. And you know what? I probably would have been a little bit embarrassed about losing a job, or people go through those feelings. You want to stay kind of quiet, looks a little dirty laundry, but you want to buy me off for something I didn't even do wrong. So all you did was awake a sleeping giant. Let's rock and roll. Like we're gonna put the spotlight on them, and there needs to be some accountability and some justice, not just for me, but for the American people, for the citizens whose money they are taking and using and abusing so that they can indoctrinate your kids.
Yeah,
Sorry, you're getting me fired up. But
no, that's good. So my my twins started colleges here, 2 different colleges. I'm not going to name which ones, but when we were looking at colleges a few years ago on spring break, we went to Florida. God, we flew into Orlando. I don't even remember. I'm like, you see, I got lumps all over my head. I got lots of fights, but not MMA. I got a bad memory. In the 1980s was tough on my brain. So we went to 3 universities, like Tallahassee, and I remember one of them, and they do the tours with the students, right? The students do the tours of the kids, and I got my twins, my wife, and the student she's got the rainbow flag earrings, big ones, and I'm like fucking staring at her. I'm like, oh my god! And I already know the universities were bad, and I'm staring at her while she's speaking to all the parents, and I was staring at her so bad, so much it got her attention. She took her earrings off, and then I forgot the other. There's another one we went to. And how the parents come into the main room and they present, and every kid had a pronoun. Right? They broke up in groups, and I'm telling my wife, I'm like, what the fuck? She's like elbowing me. I'm like, oh my god, every one of these kids got a pronoun. Seriously, and it's like we're spending. We want our kid. So yes, we want our kids to be diverse and inclusive and all this crap, right?
Do we though? Do we?
I'm
sorry.
Well, Terry, let me ask you this. So I've done these events as a professor on colleges for over 10 years where we do recruitment of the students, the parents. It's very important because you guys are the lifeblood in many respects because they charge you guys arm and a leg for tuition, and colleges can't really survive without that. So it's really important to do recruitment, to bring families and make them feel good about trusting us with their children. And I always took it as a very solemn responsibility and obligation that I never connected and understood until I had my first son 4 years ago, and he was a little baby. Wife nearly died in my arms after giving birth, and I was very emotionally connected to the family and the child at that point as a little baby. And then we had parents coming in, and I looked at their kids, 18, 19. I'm like, you guys still look like babies to me. And I could see what the parents were feeling and giving. This like blink of an eye, you went from a baby to an 18-year-old.
Oh my god.
And you're giving your most cherished treasure to this institution to help educate and mentor and take to the next level. And so my question for you, Mike, when you're doing that, what would you feel if you found out that when you left, they had a big meeting and they laughed hysterically about you your money and teaching your kid.
Yeah.
It's
What
a
would you?
total
Well, how?
betrayal.
Matter of
Well,
fact, this is a good point to play now that we have more context because we
play it again.
play that video again, Mike. All right, would you please? These look
Un
at these
momento.
snobby pricks making fun of parents,
Like
the country, our children.
the smarminess. It's like a South Park episode. That like it is. Ugh.
All right, let's roll this again.
We have a course, and it was called DEI 101, right? We have a course. It's in the category, all right.
So they do have that course, as Rick said, right? And they're laughing, and that Jamal didn't even know they had the course, and he's being a smartass saying, "Oh, say we have this course," and they do have the course, right?
Well,
Yeah.
well, again, like to your point, Rick, you know, this is, they're laughing in everybody's face right now, including the parents. That breaks up a really good point because they are hiding this from them too. This is really about indoctrination. It's not about education anymore. It's not about teaching people the critical thinking skills or exposing them to new thoughts and new ideas. It's about putting them in a box and making sure that's where they stay. It's infecting their mind with this woke virus, as Elon Musk likes to call it, because they know, like, once they've made that commitment, they're more than likely, most of them are going to get stuck there. It takes a lot to pull them from that indoctrination. Most people, you know, it's a commitment. It's hard for people to admit they're wrong, to go back to the other side. But unfortunately, that's what most of our college campuses have turned into now, especially with all these, you know, grievance study courses that we have now, from women's studies, African American studies, whatever, 16th century European slavery. It's all geared towards making you hate your country, hate your people, and sow division throughout our country. Make people yearn for communism, basically. That is really what this is about, is division.
Yeah.
So I wanted to show this picture again. I said, I mentioned, there we go, this way. This is in my kid's school. You want to talk about indoctrination? The superintendent, the school board said this is not pornography, right? It's a girl wearing a strap on. It's a boy on his knees with an earring. And they insisted it's not pornography. And they're giving this to our children. This is when my kids were freshman year. And I saw this book. I went nuts, right? I'm like, and they're trying to tell us this is not pornographic. And then to another point, that's at the high school level. This is how they're creeping. This is in Illinois. This is all over the country. They got gender unicorn here. And this is what they're giving to children like first through third grade, right? This is indoctrination. So they're starting. So they took over the universities, and I think Rick will tell you that. That's why we have TPUSA. They took that over, and guys like Rick, thank God, are trying to fight back on it. Charlie Kirk, and then they took over the high schools. They really have. A lot of pushing back on it. Now they're creeping in with gender unicorn and stuff. And then when you simply speak out and say, I don't want you to indoctrinate or sexualize my children, they attack you. They try to take your job away. They call you names, things that are not true, to try to force us into allowing them to indoctrinate our children with our own money. You know, it doesn't matter if it's at university or if it's our property taxes for grammar school and high school. And then they try to shame you and saying this is not right.
Yeah, it's a dirty, dirty deed, Terry. And what I can tell you is, let me give you some feedback from the front lines of what's happening in colleges. And I've seen students come in year after year from high schools, and there are some great students. Oftentimes, they're very bright. For the most part, nobody knows anything anymore. Even the smart ones have not been served by the education system to flourish their smartness, their intelligence. And so I'm not here saying that students are not capable. That's the shame, is they are so capable. Humans haven't lost their capability to do great things, to learn tremendously. They have not. We retain those skills. But since No Child Left Behind 25 years ago, we have dumbed down and watered down the education system to where the majority, and there are exceptions, the majority of students that I've seen, they struggle with oftentimes reading, writing, and math. They don't, but they think they've won all the awards. They've gotten 4.0s. They've been told by the system, this is not the kid's fault. They have been underserved by the teachers, the administrators, and sometimes even the parents, who've told them that they were doing great and that they're doing amazing. And so when we grade them, or at least when I would, a lot of colleagues went just as easy and sold out the students, even though they paid tuition to be taught. I actually taught them real things and I gave them real
Yeah.
grades, and it wasn't always pleasant, but guess what? They learned a lot, and I always get the thank yous afterwards, as any good coach and teacher does. And they really struggle. And I've had students really struggle with reading comprehension, with listening comprehension,
Mhm.
their study skills, and extrapolate that forward. Those become the people who build your bridges, defend you in court, arrest you as
Yeah.
police officers, do
Surgeries.
open heart surgeries, all sorts of things that are essential for the existence of a functioning society. And people aren't going to know anything anymore. And they don't already. So I've always said that in some respects, there's kind of like a new dark age, and it connects to what we're
Yeah.
talking about, because
Yeah.
it's just like when people talk about like the military's not training to beat China when
Yeah.
they're doing diversity
Yeah.
safety days, and instead China's not doing those and they're training to beat us. Well, the
Yep.
same thing is true when you talk about the intellectual side, the academic side,
The
the
damage has been
scientific
done,
side.
right, Rick? I mean, it's been done. It's going to take time to fix it, hopefully. But I mean, right? I mean, this is my opinion.
I
They've
mean,
been doing it for such a long time, hasn't it been done? And one other point, is I've never been involved in politics ever, the school and all this stuff, right? And as I got involved 4 years ago with my kids, I noticed I started tracking the high school and how much they're spending. So the money for the high school, the budgets are going up, right? The administrative staff supporting the teachers is going up. The grades are going down,
Yeah,
right?
the kids
I
are
mean,
turning into potatoes.
they go and and my thank God my wife went to University of Wisconsin, masters, she's super smart, right? Totally different. And my thank God my kids have my wife's genes in that aspect. And they're honor students. But as I'm sitting back, I was never an honor student. I barely got through high school. But I saw you know, so like like senior year, he got to, like high honors and advanced classes and stuff, but he missed something on a test that he got a B. He got to retake the test, the same test to get it. It's like, so I'm glad my kid got to take it, but I'm not glad my kid. Yeah, it's like, wait a minute, you didn't get, B's good, but it's like, what the fuck? Why are you getting another chance? I
well,
mean,
I tell you, what's happening is a lot of people are being pushed through grade inflation writ large directly. Also, times just curves. Grading on a curve takes a bunch of F's, D's, and C's and turns it into C's, B's, and A's. There's
I
all
love
sorts
the
of
curve
ways.
in high school, by the way. I love the
Yeah,
curve.
but like that stuff really does matter when they're building your bridges or doing your open
Well,
heart
yeah.
surgery. And I mean, it's easy to beat up on lawyers, but like when you're wrongfully accused and you have to have somebody speak in your defense immediately at arraignment, you want a good lawyer who knows how to think. That's
Yes.
just as important as open heart surgery. They need to know the intellectual side of critical thinking, and
Yeah.
that's really what's struggling here. And so when you talk about this DEI indoctrination from these different studies groups and this and that, the real translation is it really manifests to taking away time to studying real things that matter, science. Liberal arts is really important when you need to learn how to think. Like, so,
Yes.
I'm not going to shit on the liberal arts, even though the
Mhm.
liberal arts have shit on us.
Yeah.
But
My
but
daughter's gonna be an art teacher. I'm kind of worried, but go ahead.
but like I say that, because there's real value in them. We just need to make sure that that value begins to be returned to us again. And
Yeah.
because policy matters, like this DEI stuff. I've seen it manifest in like when you put this ideology in people, they would complain to me in classes that I addressed a class of 18 out of 20 students who were women. I said, "Hello, ladies," and
Mhm.
they said that was sexual harassment, and I got kicked. Like this is the kind of woke monsters that you breed of people
Yeah.
who go to college with
Yeah.
normal kids. They're not bad kids.
Yeah.
They can
They're
be great,
brainwashed.
but they're brainwashed by these people. And I got people, even in our department, who brainwashed them coming over on H-1B visas from Euro trash
Yep.
Yeah.
that indoctrinated them to tell and literally walked them to the complaint office to say,
Yes.
this guy shouldn't be saying hello, ladies, in class, which is absolute garbage. And that's
Yeah.
an abusive immigration policy. And you're connecting the immigration side, the DEI side, the success of our country, and they're all laughing at you. That is the clip. They are laughing at you. And it's not just them. That grant that they defrauded and they went to DeSantis's office on, which DeSantis's office has given a formal written statement. They said, yes, this happened. We met with them and we did tell them not to do DEI, even
Yeah.
though they apparently got lied to.
Mhm.
I got a
they
question
they
for you
did,
real quick.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
how were you supposed to address the class? Was it, "Hey ladies and Jim," or was there some other like new pronoun I'm not aware of that you're supposed to use?
Well,
You know,
what's really funny is there was this other woke professor who about a year or so ago she was kind enough to tell me that she saw me address a class as "Hey you guys," and she said, "Hey, you shouldn't say you
Oh my
guys."
god, I was gonna say that you beat me to it. So keep.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was my
So
next comment. Go ahead.
no, it's like a real
It's
South
a
Park
Chicago
character.
thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like a real South Park character. She waddles over and says like hey, you have to use this like there's a lot of ladies in class, so or whatever, like women, be gender inclusive. So I said okay. So I started saying okay, sure, like I'll call you ladies. So if you're in trouble for saying hey you guys, and if you're in trouble for saying hey ladies, or like hey, like you're gonna need these critical thinking skills. There's not a rubric in life. Like when you're a mom, when you're any kind of job, like you're gonna need to do this stuff. They said that that was gender stereotypes of a gender role, but it's
Mm,
like if that's not okay, then there's a lot of things that aren't okay about that. And so like these are the woke monsters we're making. Those students, I have the records. They said, and I got the records from the H-1B professor. He said they told them to feel aggrieved that that was wrong. He walked them to the Title IX office. He said, file this. And he committed H-1B fraud because he gave a fake information on his resume that we caught too. And he was
Wow.
in the
of
meeting.
course.
He was laughing about hiding the DEI. He was
Well, if it's visa fraud, we might be able to get that to Tom Home and at least solve that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I tweeted that. You should look at my Twitter today with our city hall councilman Chandler Langevin. I had a whole thread with him and Christina Pushaw about that. Literally provides all the evidence of the immigration fraud. Tom can just run through it and check it out and see if it shakes out. But like this is the stuff that matters. And like I've talked with a lot of people from academics to science. I got friends in you know, all sorts of different walks of life, but they're seeing the same thing manifest.
Yeah.
And here we just have an instance where we caught it. Now, let me tell you something. We talk about this stuff, and certainly on the academic side of like theoretical elements, but like policy
Hmm.
really does matter. And this story has intersected with politics and policy. It was vouched for. This was sponsored by the Senate Majority Leader of the Republicans, Jim Boyd, in Florida.
Florida.
And I don't
Florida.
know why he vouched for this, but he sponsored this with our university. So I don't know if he's in the hook and if he's one of the people working against DeSantis, but he was part of the lobbyist and the team that got the $7 million that they lied to about. Now, and it matters to me because I was a DeSantis voter, but
Yes.
Terry, we talked a little bit earlier about this, and if you'll indulge me, I'd like to share the story about how policy matters at a life and death level
Sure.
for me and my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Oh yeah. With your wife and why you moved from California to
So
Florida.
we
Yes.
moved here from California during COVID, and my wife was pregnant. And in California, the policies would have had it such that I would not, as the father, be allowed in the delivery room because of the nature of the COVID.
Yeah, you could give them the
separation
coof.
So thankfully, we relocated here to Florida, the land of the free, inspired by the policies that Governor DeSantis had put in to open up the state of Florida and to make sure that we were not controlled by the COVID tyranny. Now, what happened is she went and she gave birth to a wonderful son. He's now 4 years old. And afterwards, she has a weird genetic condition. She has one kidney and two uteruses,
Oh,
and
jeez.
so they had to rush her off to emergency surgery
Sure.
because the placenta would not come out. And about 2 hours later, and about 2 in the morning, they gave her back to me and they said, "We got the placenta out. She'll come to out of anesthesia in a couple minutes." Well, she never did. She basically bled out in my arms and was just about dying. Heart rate was about, I think it was 58 over 26, a heart rate of 170. She was dying in my arms. She couldn't uh, get any blood transfusion because we couldn't get a vein because she didn't have any blood pressure and nobody knew what was going on. I was praying to the priest. Um, we were working her side, but I was allowed to be on her bedside because of the policies of Ron DeSantis, if for no other reason, to be there when she died and she didn't die alone, or to be
Yeah.
there and be there by her side. Now, thank God, what ended up happening is I saw, as they were working all the medical sides of things, I saw a trickle of blood coming down her leg under the blanket that they hadn't thought to look at. As I was adjusting her blanket to keep her warm, and I said, "Why is she bleeding down her leg?" And the anesthesiologist and doctor said, she is? And I said, yeah. And so it solved the problem because they had basically accidentally lacerated her in the surgery. They put a big hole in the bucket, so to speak. She was bleeding out, so they did a second emergency surgery in the room on the site, sewed her up, which allowed the blood pressure to come back up, get a vein, fill it with a blood transfusion, saved her life because I was present and saw and was able to help. And because of that, my son has a mother. Because of that,
Yeah.
Like I am in such gratitude. Policies matter. And in this case, Ron DeSantis's policies, together with his team, helped give my son his mother and my wife back her life. And so these things matter. So when we have these like fun conversations about whether it's politics or policy, you know, these things really have a real life impact on many people in many different ways. And it is important because the future of our country is at stake if people don't know anything, or if they know the wrong things through indoctrination and this woke ideology. And whether it's the military being woke or warriors not getting what they need to succeed, you know, that stuff is important. I got friends of mine who left the service, you know, to take a principled stand, or have retired. I mean, heck, one runs a great security company. Check out Contingency Group. They do great stuff. If you guys ever need security, Eddie Penny does some really awesome stuff with contingencies. A SEAL Team 6 guy does really, really cool stuff. But like there are people like him who are heroes. He is a Gen Xer. Like, he grew up without this stuff. You guys, this was shot. I mean, Terry, you told me you never thought you'd be in this situation.
Yeah, never.
This isn't
never.
You know, but it was put on our plate. And like Simon of Cyrene, who did not want to carry the cross. He wasn't a Christian. He was there to see what was going on with this criminal. They said, bro, you got to carry this. And he's like, I don't think I want to do this. This sounds, but like, Terry, you were called and you carried that cross. You took up the stand for everyone in Illinois, everyone in Crook County. Yeah. Like, and I was a Crook County resident, and I was a kid, so I'm grateful for you and what you've done there.
Thanks.
And for the kids there. But like, this is a call for everyone about, you know, we need to do what everyone's doing in their own ways to speak up and save this country.
Yeah, not everybody has to compromise our jobs, right? I mean, but you can't sit on the sidelines and say, "Oh, yeah, this is not right." But you got to do something. You got to speak out. Again, you don't have to go on the front lines, fight, you know, lose your job or something. But you know what? You cannot be silent. You can't be silent. You got to find something to help us protect the country and the future of our children, our grandchildren. Because if we don't have a country, I mean, why are you working? Why are you doing the things you do to try to support your family in the current state, right? Because if there's no future state for our children, who cares about what a great job? Of course we care. You do a great job for your family. But if we don't have a country for our kids that we pass on to them, I mean, how are you gonna feel good about yourself when you move on? So,
well, Terry, you know, that speaks to my heart, and I'm grateful that you say that, because, you know, I've gotten to know you a little bit over the past few days, and when we first talked, I hadn't known about you or your show or your story, and you know, I was inspired when I heard about it, and grateful when I heard about it. But I heard an earnestness in you, and what you're saying is true, and what you're saying is right, and that's what really connected with me. And you know, so like, when you talk about losing jobs, and I know you have, and you've been a hero for that. You know, there's a short essay by a Nobel Prize winning author named Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Are you familiar with him?
I am, yes.
So Solzhenitsyn survived the gulags in Soviet communist Russia. Awful atrocities. Wrongfully accused, was a slave in the gulag, essentially. And he went out and he wrote afterwards a book called The Gulag Archipelago, and it ended up being recognized with the Nobel Prize for Literature. And so he became very prominent and famous, and people asked him, how did this happen? How do we prevent communism from taking over again? And people doing these awful atrocities to human beings in the gulags and outside of the gulags. And his answer he gave was in this essay called Live Not by Lies. And he says the way the communists took over is because people stopped speaking the truth. And it wasn't the big truths, it was the little truths. He said they let a little lie slide here, another little lie slide, like this isn't porn. No, that's porn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like a little lie, no, this will be okay. No, it's not okay.
Yeah.
a little lie. This is just a unicorn. No, it's not just a unicorn. Like
Right,
he
right.
said this, and it's really important that he shared this because he suffered for it and he paid the price. And people should revisit that essay because it's great. It's a wonderful piece of literature, but it is the truth. And he says sometimes that means people are going to have to lose their jobs. But he said it's just a job, and you may go hungry, but it's just food. And we talked before the show that we do have a duty to provide for our children, to feed their bellies, but we must also feed their souls.
Mhm.
And our jobs, I'm not flippant about it. I lost my job.
Yeah.
I need to I have sending my wife to the coal mine. She's working extra while nursing postpartum and tending to a new baby that we have that has special needs. And like, she is a hero for our family because she's helping to carry the load while I'm getting the word out and helping to do what we're doing here. But like, it's not trivial to lose a job. It's
No.
happened. It's a big deal, and it's an impact on a family, and it matters. But it's also not the only thing that matters. And when there's a price to pay for telling the truth, but it's never ever nearly as bad as the price pay for telling a lie.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think people, would do well to remember that in those trying times, that we never think about the price that there is to pay for the lie, the price that there is for doing wrong against one's integrity. I'm speaking to you guys in Crook County there. Anybody listening in Crook County, have some
Yeah.
integrity. We got to fix that place. But like, not you guys, of course. But
Yeah. Right.
but like,
It's hard.
but like,
It's like,
like that stuff really matters. And losing the jobs, it hurts.
no, yeah.
I have a give, send, go for people who want
Matter
to
of fact,
support
yeah,
them.
we should have put that up there. Tell us what the give send go is. I forgot. I was going to ask you that before the show. Shit.
Well,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
if
all
you
right.
send it to email
I
it to me
did.
after we get off air, and I'll get our Ex American News account to tweet it out, and
But
hopefully we can
put
help out a little bit.
Yeah,
It
what's
is
the address now?
the name of it is GJ3J. Excuse me, GJ3G6, which is not what I picked. It just automatically created it because I had no idea what I was doing, and it just created an automatic one. So
So you got
that's
two
what it
little
is.
babies, wife's working. Could
Yeah.
use some help. I guess another little interest, fun, as we close on a nicer note, but you're talking about cutting grass, and James O'Keefe actually came out, I think I had sent you a picture, maybe I didn't, Mike, about O'Keefe came there and was helping you cut grass, right? That's pretty cool.
It was quite an honor. I mean, I was very touched. I mean, him and his production crew, they came, and like, and that's no trivial matter. Like, it's hot up in Chicago. It's hot down here. I got a hill.
In Florida, yeah.
And they came out and they were sweating. And it was funny because he commented, he's like, man, I thought you would have a bigger mower. It's only 20 inches. So he was zipping back and forth, like any of you middle-aged dads out there, you know what that means. Like, it was
It's
like
a lot of passes.
yeah. So I give him a lot of credit, and it was very, very humbling. And but like, yeah, like I mowing some lawns, and you do what you got to do. But I'm here asking for help too, because one of the reasons I'm asking for help and to give, send, go is I'm trying to raise the same money that they tried to buy the truth for.
Well, yeah.
Because like, what's more important?
And I guess another point too is that I hope some of the as your message gets out there, right? We're on the second show. You're going to have more.
Oh, did we just lose Terry? You might have frozen.
Can you
All
guys
right.
hear me?
Yep, you're back now. Yep, there you go. You're back.
I'm hoping because I guess it sounds like we're like the second show. As your message gets out there, more people learn about what you've been through and what you're going through right now. Is that are there universities that might reach out to you, or give you a chance, or respect what you're doing, or is it just so polluted, the whole United States of America, by leftists that you're screwed? I mean,
no, I mean, it's hard to know. So it's really hard to apply for university jobs. It takes about a year to get them. So that's also one of the reasons why we're asking for support, because that's about a year of us. But like,
long process, yeah.
Have you talked to Charlie Kirk or got connected with Charlie Kirk?
I haven't had a chance to do that yet, but
I will help you.
Trick is like,
I'll help you.
Like, probably the easiest thing to do would have been for me to shut up in order to get another job. But again, like what happened and the way that it happened was so wrong that like
Yeah.
again, like we just feel compelled to tell the truth, and if there's a price to pay, then we're a family of prayer, and we will prayerfully figure it out, and that's okay. Like we know the fear, but we're not governed by it, and we have faith over that fear. And and I really think that, like, for the reasons we talked about, it's important enough to speak up and get this matter out, because
Yeah.
it's not about my job. It's about the fact that you have people laughing behind our
Yeah.
backs.
Well,
And there's
it's
people
also
their
about
children.
America's future. You know, we talk about this all the time, how, you know, America's kids keep getting stupider and stupider every year, that our test scores just keep going down ever since the formation of the Department of Education. We've talked about all the corruption in the grade schools, from bringing litter boxes in the bathrooms and tampon machines, to dragging kids off to what they tell them is art club, and it's actually an LGBTQ recruitment event. It's all the stuff that's going on in the high schools. This is a systemic problem, and if we don't get America's schools back to being more concerned about education and critical thinking than they are leftist indoctrination, then we are on a path of failure. We have to restore Americans' education. We used to be, you know, if not the top country, one of the top countries every year producing the smartest students. We keep falling further and further down on this because we're having less of a focus on truth, reality, science, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and more of a focus on pronouns and feelings and things that should not be the primary focus of our educational system. You guys want to learn about those things or participate in it? Do it at home. Do it in your off time. Make it an extracurricular activity if they're old enough. But we have to get America's schools at every grade level, from kindergarten through college, refocused on what their priorities should be, and away from this DEI nonsense that just instills hate and resentment in people, and you know, makes people think that the system's stacked against them, that no matter what they do, because of the color of their skin or their sexual orientation, the deck's stacked against them, and they just resent the country, resent everyone around them, and then blame others for the problems that they create.
Yep.
Michael, you couldn't have said it better, but let me ask you this, if I may. Everything you just said was absolutely spot on and true. But if after all that, you went to the democratic process of the ballot box, and you had enough people vote to put in the policies in place to stop that, and if that happened at both the state and the federal level, and then the policies were enacted, which don't always happen that you vote for, they actually were enacted from both, in this case, the DeSantis and the Trump administrations. They actually did what they said they were going to do. Now, let me ask you this.
It's a miracle.
If after doing that, of everything you just said, you marshal your forces in a democratic process of democracy, you win the battle of ideas, you enact the policies of proper ideology that they voted for, and after all of that, you say you can't have our money unless you follow the rules, and then you found out that they went behind your back, lied to get that same money that you just voted to make sure they couldn't get to do the things that they shouldn't do, and then you found them laughing about you, not to your face, behind your back, because these kind of cowards would never laugh to your face.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. That, like, what does that mean about us as a people, as a country? And that, to me, is why we need this to be taken up at both the state and federal level, because, like, they're making clowns. They think they're going to ride this out.
Yeah, there have to be consequences and repercussions. That's something we've talked about on other issues over and over again. You know, the DOJ is sitting on numerous criminal referrals right now for people lying to Congress, some of them for over 8 weeks, and they haven't acted. There have to be repercussions and consequences when you violate the law, violate the public trust. And I'm sure in the case with the university in Florida, I'm sure they've probably broken both state and federal laws now that they've accepted this money, lied about it, but there have to be consequences. The university president, gone. Anybody else that helped facilitate this, gone. And if they can fine them or criminally charge them, they need to, because a message has to be sent so this kind of behavior subsides. We also need to start screening people that want to work in our education system. Make sure they actually want to teach children rather than just be activists. If they want to be activists, they can do that on their own dime. We don't need those kind of people anymore. We've already learned our lesson. It's time to move on and get back to the kind of teachers we had. Well, probably you and I were both in school. You know, I graduated high school in 2001, and I don't remember too many activists growing up. What's that?
79.
Well,
all right.
Yeah,
You're my dad's
I didn't go to
age, I think. Yeah.
I didn't go to college till I was older. I didn't go out of high school. I worked in the real world for a number of years. But even like as I went into college, I mean, I think this stuff was just starting to creep in. But at that point, they were scared. Like if I called out a professor on it, they shut their mouth and they went back to teaching the lesson plan because they knew there might be consequences for indoctrination, especially if there were 3 or 4 of us that were willing to stand up and challenge them. Whereas now they'll probably label you a domestic terrorist and get you arrested for something just for speaking out.
Well, Michael, I mentioned, I had mentioned something earlier in our conversation. I said I'd come back to it. I said the chair of the board of trustees was a piece of work, and what you said made me. I want to come back to that because what you said is absolutely right. What we need is a top-down cleaning. So it's not just that the president of this university needs to be shown the door, right? He needs to be stepped down in any way he wants to. But the problem with that is he's just going to be replaced. They're all hiding this. They're all doing this, and it's the board of trustees that does the hiring and firing. Well, in this particular case, we were lucky enough to get a peek behind the curtain. The board of trustees gave a statement completely backing this. And then it turns out, like the Governor DeSantis's letter that you showed earlier said, hey, you should contact your board of trustees about this. Well, it turns out they already weighed in. And what we know about that is that, and if you Google her, what's Kristen Dreggers, there's one of the first things that come up is from Florida Today's magazine, which is like the Daily Herald or Tribune out here. And it has a story about her at I think Lockheed Martin talking about how diversity is the most important part of engineering. Well, talk to the people in the Boeing planes that are crashing, or the people that are stuck in the spaceship.
I think we found our culprit.
And so, so you can't just replace this one bad actor. You need to replace the conspiracy to defraud, but not just from the other faculty members who are conspiring in this conspiracy to defraud, but the top down needs to a house cleaning too. That board of directors needs a cleaning because they clearly backed this. And the problem that they've always done, that the Country Club Republicans have always given into as well, is they always just believed in when they said, no, we're going to start complying now. You find us enough money, we'll fix it. You can trust us now. No, this video that you started out broke today, the laughter, that tells you can never, ever, ever be able to trust them to comply and follow the rules again. And so we need a full top-down house cleaning, reinstating integrity and excellence in our education system, in every system, science, education, technology, medicine, law, across the board. That's what the Trump mandate was from the voters. When you say drain the swamp, what we mean is a top-down clearance. And there's not always people to fill those spots, but we will figure that out. But we need that board of trustees, they need to be cleaned out. And what the DeSantis administration had initially said in their statement back in April was like, well, this is a private university. There's not much we can do about that. I would say, contraire, mon frere, you can hold off the funding spigot of state funds. You can contact your friends in the Department of Education that Linda McMahon runs at the federal side, or in Office of Civil Rights that Harmeet's doing, and you can retract the federal funds, the DoD funds from the GI Bill, from the Pentagon, from the people funding the things across the board, contrary to the policies that just got laughed at and lied to behind their back. And you can say, you know what? I can't control your hiring, but I'll control your money. So if you don't get rid of these people, you can find your own money. So, there are pathways, but we need to have the backbone and the fortitude and the political will and the grassroots support. And when we do that, we'll use this as a model, but we'll do this everywhere. And we will take the country back.
Well, you're exactly right. That really is the model that needs to be followed, because holding the purse strings is going to be the only thing that really has an immediate effect. But we need to change the culture at the schools. We need to eliminate all these people that are, not just supportive of this type of ideology, but are willing to lie about it, that think that that's okay, that the joke's on us, all the American people, the taxpayers, the college students, the parents footing the bill and everything else. So yeah, you're right. We need to, it needs to be a top-down solution. There need to be financial disincentives for going this route, and we do need to actually start prosecuting people. Again, I'm sure this professor or this university president broke laws. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what they would be, but we can't just let people skate anymore. I'm sure there's civil rights violations he could be charged with. They're still continuing to act this discriminatory policy, especially if they're doing it in enrollment. So we need to saddle them with consequences for what they've actually done, and when we need to be firm, make these changes, and it's going to be a process. The one saving grace might be because of all this leftist indoctrination telling people to go be girl bosses and not have kids and everything else. Generation Alpha is half the size it should be. It's around 40 million people. So I don't know how all these colleges are going to survive in another 3 to 4 years when Gen Z is 80 to 85 million, and suddenly they're going to have half the students to deal with the same number of colleges. So I look at that as an opportunity. We can get rid of the really bad universities and then consolidate the good professors, the good educators that actually do want to make great Americans that will move forward in the space race, in new industry and technology, will bring us life-saving cures and new medicine, instead of new pronouns and more blue-haired asexual moon bats.
So I think we went well beyond our time, which was good. Rick, why don't you say your Give, Send, Go address again, and then Mike will push it out on X America News, because sorry, we should have put that on your bottom part of the screen. I forgot. I was going to tell him. I forgot to tell him. So why don't you say it again?
It's givesendgo.com/ the letter G, J, number 3, letter G, and number 6.
Okay.
So
and we'll push that out.
Sorry for the weird name of the number on that. I had never done this before. It was sort of last minute scramble to try to get some support, because we lost our job on no notice. I got no health insurance, no income for the kids. We just scrambled. I don't know.
Yeah,
this is all new to me. I'm used to doing brain science, and I'm grateful for what you guys have done for our country, for standing up locally there, Mike. And Terry, everything you've done is incredible. And thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming. I think everyone appreciated it. And like, when you do more interviews, make sure you remind the people to put your Give, Send, Go on the bottom. I forgot. I know you brought it up, and I forgot to tell Mike to put it there. So don't be embarrassed to say, "Hey, put my Give, Send, Go under my name," and they'll do it.
And, we'll get the link tweeted out, and I'll make sure some people see it. And you know what? I'll tell you the rest off air, actually.
Yeah. Hold on a second. So let me closing statement here. So thank you very much. Really appreciate everything you've done, the family sacrificing and standing up and doing the right thing, and put your job at risk. And hopefully you get another job by like a normal school that will appreciate your honesty. And so next Thursday we have a very cool guest, Dana Kennedy. Dana became a friend of mine. She worked for the New York Post, and I met Dana when she reached out to me to host her in Chicago for her Trendelargua Venezuelan prison gang guys. That I took her and a cameraman around, and actually it was the cover of the New York Post, front page, top half. And now Dana is at the Daily Mail, and then she came to Chicago to do a story on the Obama Library, which is a joke, right? So that story just came out on the Daily Mail. Dana Kennedy, I pushed it out there. She's going to come and talk about that. And then coincidentally, when she came to Chicago to talk about that, she asked me about Downers Grove South High School. That's where my children went, Rick. They're with all this crazy stuff. So my kids just graduated, boy, girl. There was a boy from Downers Grove South that was having a sexual affair with this really hot teacher that's married for over a year. She's got 47 charges against her. And Dana's like, "Oh yeah, I'm coming to Downers Grove." I'm like, "You're kidding me? That's where my kids went to school." She's laughing, and so she's doing a story on that. That we'll talk about that. That's going to come out later. And then not only this teacher was having an affair. It's a little different when you got a boy and a girl, especially a hot teacher, wrestling kid, but it's not right. And then a year ago, in the same school where this stuff is going on, another teacher's got 20 some years for child pornography in my kid's school. And they're saying this stuff doesn't do anything to our children.
We
Two,
have to win this country
two
back.
teachers in a year.
And we've
right?
Yeah.
neglected education for a long time, whether it's higher education and academia. We completely forgot about it, gave it away. And obviously the lower education from elementary school to 12th grade, that is where the battles are fought. You guys may not remember, but in the 2016 Republican National Convention, Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor from the
Yeah.
SEALs, he gave a speech there. People forget this kind of stuff, but I watched it because I taught his brother, who's now Congressman Morgan, at UT Dallas. So I paid attention when he gave a speech. I was like, oh, okay. And he said that he came back from war and he now realized that the actual real war is domestic here.
Yes.
It's not a military one. It's a domestic battle
Generation.
for truth.
Yep.
And you guys are leading that, and I'm inspired by, and grateful.
But you're one of the
for that.
soldiers that are like in the front line
Yeah.
with the diversity. So you're part
Making
of it.
things actually happen. We just yell at the internet.
Well,
Yeah.
just remember, everybody, whoever's listening, watching, remember they're lying to you. Like Terry, when if you were to win against your school board, and they're like, all right, fine, we'll comply. You know they won't behind closed doors.
Yeah, they
We
crush
know
you.
from the video you started with today, it just came out. I saw it. I was a personal witness to it. I was part of it. They are laughing.
Yes,
And they are
Yeah.
lying. And they will always laugh. They will always lie until people say no more. And then they have to take action. They have to not just say no
We have
more.
to force them.
We have to make sure that it doesn't come back.
Yes.
Yep. So,
Well-
well, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. So don't jump off. We'll talk after we close out here. All right, Mike. Any closing statements?
Sounds. I'll just say again, thank you for all the work you're doing down there, Rick. Really do appreciate it. Again, we need people like you out there fighting the good fight, that are willing to take a stand and actually have the courage to do so. Because a lot of people know what's going wrong, but there's not a lot of people with the courage to speak up. To our audience, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. We'll be back on Thursday with even more.